Now, let's get the inside track on real estate. MIPIM is the biggest property show in the world. It takes place every March in Cannes in the south of France. Nice venue. But what are some of the challenges or even opportunities facing the sector?
So let's start with urban planning. In the coming years, more than 60% of the population will be living in cities. Next comes efficiency of resources. How will future real estate projects be able to take into account the need to monitor and save resources when energy demands change? They're going to grow by some 40%, and half of the world's population will be living in areas of high water stress.
And finally, digitisation. Very soon, over 1 trillion objects will be connected to the internet, apparently, and all of the data collected from the users and the buildings will clearly modify the way real estate professionals are working, or perhaps they are already changing in reaction to that trend. Well, let's find out. Let's talk to Filippo Rean, who's the head of Reed MIDEM's real estate division. He's also the director of the property show. Thanks very much for coming onto the programme. So what will the city of the future look like? What are the current trends in property? Are already exhibitors at the show thinking much more about energy efficiency and also the way we're going to live in the future?
Yes. Well, the answer is a big yes, meaning that these themes and these trends that a few years ago appeared still quite different or quite aside from the main real estate business are today included and are today considered when cities and planners and developers think about new projects and new developments.
Some people would say, why already aren't we seeing energy efficient products put onto new build homes? Why don't all of them, say for example, have solar panel tiles on the roofs already? Why isn't it in force now?
Well, there are economic considerations when you do that, and so what is very important to give a new dimension to these changes is the collaboration between the public and the private sector. And this is what we try to do at MIPIM, which is really a place where on real estate themes and issues and opportunities, the private and the public sector come together, because you're right, you might have different views, you might have more short-term views or long-term views. The important thing is to combine the two and to come up with the city or the developments of the future.
In terms of the show itself, I mean, it's very international, isn't it? You've got most countries represented, you've got architects, developers, investors, everybody sort of there discussing and chatting. I would imagine, depending on where you are in the world, the challenges are very different, the demands are very different in terms of, you know, the cities and how they're going to change in the future. But what are the key themes that are kind of being discussed in the industry in terms of development of the future cities?
Well, you have at least two big themes that are quite common. One is the sustainability of the urbanization, and that's common, and I think that everybody is now aware of that. And the second one is how to include the societal changes, what is sometimes called the sharing economy, into our cities, into our buildings. And the way buildings are going to be used in the future will dramatically change compared to today.
And I assume the time frame in which they dramatically change is getting shorter.
There is an acceleration.
Because of technology.
Exactly. Which is, again, is something that accelerates the trend, but is also something that will allow the industry to adapt. And that's why there is a new word, a new buzzword, which is PropTech today, which is exactly the combination of technology and property. And this is starting to be a real thing. And in places like MIPIM, until even last year, PropTech was still aside, was still at the margins. And today is going to be one of the key topics and is going to have a large central space within the exhibition area.
Okay, Filippo Rean, Director of MIPIM and Head of the Real Estate Division, thank you very much for talking to us about the show.
Thanks for coming in. Good to meet you today.